relationship building and understanding how to sustain those. Like with the aspect of sharing information, it's like, do I have a relationship with you? Do you even ask me how I'm doing before you ask me? Like, seriously. And then going to like the brand side as well, like as a Black woman, building relationships with some of these people behind the scenes as well. Not a lot of them look like me, but the ones that do look like me, I'm like, sis, like, I'm not expecting it, but you know how this industry is. And the fact that you and I are in this room together, it's not by coincidence, it's because we worked our asses off to be here. Aside from our
So my 3 points is this. I have 3 points because I was listening to everyone like say things. The first thing I'll say is like the first time I ever actually knew the words of usage, whitelisting, or just like I guess what rates should be, and how you actually calculate all these things and what contracts means. It was actually from a white counterpart where I felt like and I think it's more of a mindset thing as humans and also as women and growing up. It's where like, it's a competitive thing where a lot of these white women that are flexing and doing amazing things at such a fast pace, they don't see us really as competitors. So it's like, here's all the information that you can have.
They owe us.
Either way, so that's the first point.
This is like part of the conversation too.
No, it's like not seeing people as competitors, that's a whole nother conversation. But also I'm like, why are you giving me all this information? And I think I remember one time even being on the phone, we were talking about rates and stuff like that, and you're like, wait, what? And it was like a while ago, but I got these information from like the white counterpart. I was like, interesting, wow, thank you for letting me know. So that's one. And I think the second point I was making, thought of is like, I think when you get a job where you are saying something being a woman of color, a lot of us are probably usually the only one on set a lot of the times, or one of two or something like that. It's like, why would I give you this information if I'm that one person? You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people have that mindset. It's like, I'm this one person. So it's like, I can't tell you because now I'm going to be out of the job because they really just want one person for a season or whatever the case is. And if I'm that one person, why would I give that to you? And then the third point I wanted to make is sharing is it's a certain way. Because I've had DMs where people, I don't know them. Sometimes they don't even follow you, but they're just like, no, seriously. I know. But they're just like, can you do this for me? Can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? Give me this email. Can you give me? I'm like, but I actually never even met you in my life. I check your page. You don't even follow me, but you know a lot about me. It's just like a lot going on. But I think that when you have a relationship with someone, like Kia was saying, like having friends, like we've shared information before, but I think there's a certain way of doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I really do feel like a lot of these white women or whatever, they really don't see anything as competitors. I don't know how they are necessarily with one another in particular, because it does get a little spicy. It gets a little spicy, but I do think that it was very interesting that someone like that gave me all this information, but I would never have gotten it from like a different counterpart that looks like me, but I know the reason behind it, and it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's just kind of the dynamic of the way things are, right?
Yeah.
So
that's you said 2 points that I wanted to touch on, like when I had asked about community. That was something I thought that was important. To have you ever felt like you're in a room with another Black woman or someone who looks like you? Because I did encounter this, where I felt like this girl who looked like me didn't want to have anything to do with me because she wanted to be the only token. One. She wanted to be.
Gabrielle Union spoke about that before, where she was getting a lot of jobs and she was like, I guess, a mean girl, where she was just like, I got a seat at the table and I'm so happy. I'm that one that's here and I'm gonna be here. And it's like, that's great, you know what I mean? But then she would get so envious when she wasn't getting booked, and she stopped being that one only girl. And when she took herself back from supporting her other counterparts that do look like her while also doing her own thing, things opened up. Because one, when you have like somewhat of a community, you'll hear things more even before somebody else heard it. You know what I mean? If there's a tight community, where that's also really hard to find. You know what I mean? Because trust is, I don't know about y'all, but trust is not a thing for me. I'm like, you know what I mean? I trust is a really big thing. So I think that when you do find this small community that makes sense to you, sharing will be not a second thought. You know what I mean? But I think that when people just come out of the woodwork, then that doesn't really make sense. Like yesterday, I spent an hour and a half having coffee with someone that I don't think she was trying to pick. I feel the vibe, you know what I mean? But she just was starting and she just wanted to know. And I think that for me, I don't mind doing stuff like that depending on who you are and how you approach the situation. Yeah. Because I'm not from here. I'm from this suburban place, and I came to New York like, not really, everyone comes here with a mission, or if you're living here you have a mission, but you don't know how to get it. Yeah. And someone has to help somebody, you know? Someone helped me. And I think that sharing information, I shared information with her, I think in terms of like how to start, what's your brand, see where your mind is, where do you want to go, who do you want to be, and to see if you're really serious, and to see the extent of sharing I'm willing to have. Everything is case by case basis. Yeah. But I think that the no sharing, I don't think that's a real good zone, but I think that the sharing case by case basis is what it really is.
And I kind of feel like we, each and every one of us and everyone out there, a Black influencer world, we actually have the power to dismantle some of these systems.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have ultimate power, but we do have our own influence over how situations are handled. Like if you get a job, you know, you can ask what other influences are going to be involved. If it's even something as simple as an event. I do this all the time. When there's an event, I'm like, oh, can I bring some friends with me? Okay, I'm going to bring, you know, 2 more Black girls in here. Black girls.
Then do you notice when you're when like we've had so many like times where we're like that 4 or 5,
can I bring
and
a
then
+5?
they're just like picture, just like picture, and like how do we become these targets? But again, like
sharing, show the diversity.
But see, the thing is, we really got to get out of that mentality of you know, there can only be one. Like, and the thing is, it's like the brands do this a lot, but we do it ourselves. Like, try to give an example. So, for instance, like, you know, I don't know. I feel like when in the beauty industry, especially, like some people may think like, you know, there can only be one. Like there can only, like my thing is I love Jackie Aina. Like that girl has done the work. She's amazing. She deserves everything that she has. But we need more Jackie Ainas. And I like that and she's a great example because Jackie Aina does a lot to shine a light on other Black influencers. She does things that we don't even know that she does to get people in certain rooms. I think that, you know, we all should have some sort of aspect of that, and we got to get out of that tokenism, you know, kind of mentality, because it's not going to get us anywhere.
Maybe it's just like who I am, or just I'm just super confident, but like once it goes back to like what's for you is for you. So you're not taking nothing away from you by elevating other.
And that's my thing. That's how I'm thankful that all of you are in the room, because I feel like none of us are like that. We don't hold on to information, want to be the token. I mean, I've always been the token, so it's not a place like I don't necessarily want to be there anymore, you know what I'm saying? So I'm happy to bring other people into the space and share information when it's asked appropriate. Like you said, like there has to be an exchange. Like, you know, I've had girls come to me and like, I want to start, okay, so where are you now? Show me the work you've done thus far, because it's not just we don't want to share, it's so show me what you've done so I can now help take you to the next level. But if you haven't done anything,
because some people just want the answers to the test. They just want the answers. Just give me the answers, and they just really want to be you. Like I want to be Courtney. Give me the answers so I can be the next Courtney. And it's like that doesn't work like that. You have to be your own person.
But those are the people that don't go far, and it's sad to say it like that, but it's true, because a lot of people think that this industry is like, here are the rules and you get successful. And it's nothing like that. And you can see like who's really about it, like genuinely, and then you can see who's not and how hard they work.
I've heard that it's a give and take, because I think people assume because you're so big you don't need anything. So I've heard you hear advice, bring something to the table, and then because you can't keep on taking, you know, nobody's a charity, you know, you have to give something back. So for people like you that are established, what would someone bring to the table to make you feel like, you know, what do you think you need from someone else? Or
I think it's just building genuine connection. Because when I first met Courtney, it was at an event years ago, and she ran up to me and was like, "Oh my God, I love you." You know, this was like, I've been doing this for so many years. Like I can't go out the house literally without somebody recognizing me, and that's just because I've been doing it for so long, and have a lot of followers or whatever. So when that happened, it was just like, you know, a genuine connection. Like, okay, like she watches my channel, yada, yada, yada. But then it was just like, I seen the way she moved in that room. I saw other people that knew who she was. I didn't know who she was, but it made me want to know who she was. Like, what did she do? So that's how we was able to build something genuine, organic, just off of her knowing me and just seeing how she was working the room. I was like, oh, I want to know who that girl is. Like, I want to, you know, see what she, you know, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I think approach is everything. I'm sorry. I just think approach is literally everything. I feel like I don't care if you have 0 followers. I don't care about anything. I don't care who you are, what you look like. If you approach me respectfully and you're genuinely interested in something I posted or the industry, I'm gonna answer you. But that's also just me. I like talking and I love spreading up like anything I can about what I do. But if you don't approach me the right way, I'm gonna just
like say hello.
Right.
Like it's like I feel like it's a whole different conversation, but email etiquette or DM etiquette is the thing. Like you need to, you know, you don't have to ask me how my week's been, but it'd be nice if you at least said like, hi, how are you? You know, something like that.
Where did you get that dress?
Not enough, and then there's the everything.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm never gonna make it through.
I tell people all the time that networking, and that's exactly what it is networking, is very much like dating. You would, like, if you went on a date with someone and the first thing they tried to do was stick their tongue down your throat, you'd be like, whoa, hold up, I don't even know your last name. It's the same thing with networking. You don't want to come on too strong or too hard. Networking, and I say this because I used to be a salesperson, and I used to be petrified of selling to people, but then I got good at it. And the thing is, back when I was selling investments and insurance at the bank, a lot of times they would send us to these like workshops or, you know, maybe a workplace like a hospital or something, and then you had a goal, you had to bring back to the office X amount of accounts. So you're like this. Then I realized, I'm like, if you're gonna go like this, you might get 1 or 2, maybe you get 5 accounts, and maybe, you know, those 5 accounts will be worth like $500 or something like that. But if you finesse and you court and you show an interest and you take your time, you can get a $50,000 account, a $100,000 account, $1 million account, and that's the same aspect that the same way that you have to approach networking. When you want something from someone or you're trying to get to the next level, you can't look at it as what I want, give me. It has to go both ways. You have to have a relationship with this person. You have to show some interest in this person. There are people that I will spend years, because maybe the distance keeps us from seeing each other, that I'll spend years with just commenting on their Instagram posts or, you know, DMing them on some friendly stuff. And then, you know, it's like when I, you know, actually finally meet them, then it might be like, oh, you know, and even then, I'm not trying to, you can't close business on that first date, you know, you have to take your time with it. And that's the thing with networking and, you know, people asking, you know, to pick your brain and things like that. It's like, you gotta finesse it. You're not gonna be able to like,
give me your brain.
Like get everything, because the thing is, it's like, what's the phrase? The tortoise. What's the tortoise in the air?
Oh yeah.
Slow and steady wins the race. Yes. I'm always bad with like that. But slow and steady wins the race is so true, because if you're patient, you know, you work at it the right way, big things will come your way. Because I don't know about y'all, and actually I do know about y'all, because y'all. But everyone in this room took that slow and steady course, and it's like, you know, you reap the benefits of it. I would rather have 1 or 2 maybe like big paying campaigns than I would want to have 20 lower paying things, because then I'm like this trying to make sure that.
And you're busy just to be busy at that.
Right.
Point.
Yeah.
What you were saying about courting, I think that's also true when it comes to brands. Like,
Yes.
you gotta court the brands that you
Absolutely.
want to work
Yes.
with. That's literally how I got one of my first 4-figure campaigns, was just engaging with this brand, and they had some sort of contest. I won their little contest, and then 4-figure campaign. Next, I'm doing another 4-figure. Like it just turns into bigger things. I think court.
To answer your question, for me, it's not that kind of stuff.
And then having that kind of relationship helps as well too, because I have a lot of I guess you could say personal relationships with people who work at specific brands. I personally like to work with the same brands over and over again because it's like I already know what's up. But when you have that relationship, you then have that power to be like, oh, you know who would be great for this campaign? X, Y, Z.
Right.
You know who else? This person. And that's kind of how we, can help to build and grow. And because I want to see all kinds of black girls winning. I want to see tall black girls winning, short black girls, light skinned girls, dark skinned girls, everybody winning. All of the black girls.
That's actually the perfect segue because I feel like this is going to be the last major topic we talk about before we, but advocacy. So we're not a monolith. Black women, black people, we're not a monolith. We are all so different. So how do we advocate, or how do you personally advocate for other people? Because I know for like me personally, asking to have a +1 or being on a call with a brand and like, oh well, I know such and such, and they would be really good. So, 'cause I remember one time you had spoken about it, and you said, I recognize my privilege as a light-skinned black woman. And there is privilege there. Like, there is privilege with even my hair texture, the fact that it's not a 4C and happens to be a 4A, but there's privilege there. So, like, how do we, make sure that we're advocating for other people to get into those rooms and spaces and saying, to make that a thing?
I can say I learned from someone doing something for me. So for example, one of my big travel campaigns, I can actually shout out, is Jess Nabosh, is I had someone else actually throw my name out for a campaign. And when she did that and they reached out to me and they told me, they're like, oh, we were trying to do this and this person actually said you would be great for it. And for some reason, it hadn't really hit me just how easy it is to do that. Like I always felt like you don't even have to be asked. You could be the one that throws it out. And so just having that experience and benefiting from that, it showed me that every time I can, I will ask, can there be a +1? I will ask, is there still room in the campaign for other people? Are they still looking? I know some people who are great. I know this person who loves your brand. I know this person who travels and is amazing. So put that in the conversation. Again, it's all about approach, is how you do these things. You're not requesting, you're just asking. You ask very kindly. And sometimes you're like, yeah. And I've had a few instances where people have then later on told me, oh, I booked this campaign. They said you threw my name in the hat, or sometimes it doesn't happen. But I think because I benefited from that quite early on, I realized how easy it is. Like, what does it take from you?
It doesn't.
Really.
I had an experience where I was the token on a trip, and and one good thing about being in this industry for so long and like just growing up in general is that you just start being like, you know what, I don't give a damn. Like that. So I said to the brand, I'm like, I'm very disappointed with the lack of diversity, and if you needed more black people, I could have given you a whole list. And of course they always take offense, and they're like, well, actually there's 3 women of color and this and that and the third. I looked at that list, and there are people that are of mixed heritage. Myself, I'm Asian, and this and that and the third. And I'm like, look, if you had to start breaking out your ancestry to say that you have women of color, and this is another conversation for another day, but women of color and black women is 2 different things, but that's not for another day. But with this particular brand, they tried to get a little defensive or whatever, and I'm like, oh Lord, this is gonna be an interesting trip, but I'm like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for your passive aggressiveness. I don't care. But what I did was I literally went through my list of everyone that I follow on Instagram. That list had to have been like maybe 200 names long, and I just threw out all of the black influencers that kind of talk about whatever the subject was for this trip. And they were like, oh my God, this thank you so much for this list. Because to be honest, I can't even say if it's laziness. I want to say it's laziness, but I don't know these people to say for sure that they're being lazy. But people generally, when they do business, they do it from the extent of their own personal networking web. White people only know white people sometimes. It's unfortunate,
It's who they know.
It's who they know. And if they don't know any black people, it's like, maybe they'll go on Instagram and maybe hashtag Black Girl Magic and see figure out.
Find me.
Right. And what gets me mad is sometimes I find brands that pick the same person all the time, and this person doesn't even have like a genuine following, but that's another conversation. But yeah, when you complain, well, I don't want to say complain, let me take that word back. when we make it visible to the brand that they're not making us visible, we have to do it in a way where it's like, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you come at brands about their lack of diversity and they take that mess personal, and it's like, look, I ain't got time to coddle you. But what you want to do is make sure that you reinforce it with, have your list ready. Of all the black people that you know, all black people in America, put it on the list and have, you know, have this list ready to give these brands. They should be paying for that, but
I think the same thing. I think what I've started doing is like being more vocal about how I feel. So like if I go on a trip and I don't see other women that are like me, after the trip is done or even during the trip, I'm just gonna say like, hey, like I know tons of women. Am I the only one of color? Like this happened recently, and I had to really like press the issue because not only was I uncomfortable, but I was just like, you know that we buy your clothes, right? You know that we are always supporting you, and the least you could have done was put another woman that was either darker than me or something of women of color on this trip as well, because 12 of the same girl that looks the same is not going to get you anywhere because they all have the same demographic, and that's not the goal of what you want from this trip. So I think there's a way to say everything. So after we go to an event and we only see, you know, like 3 of us there, write to that PR and say, hey, like, I wish you could have done this a little bit better, or like go through your invites. There's so many talented black women that are influencers that really love your brand and have posted organically, and you still didn't even consider them. So I think us, like being established as we are, I think we have a voice and we should use it, and we should use it properly. You don't have to say like, I didn't see none of my friends there. No, you can say like, I know a bunch of women that do the same thing I do that would love to be in the space when you have another event, because you never know. And I think that's like really, really important for us. Like that's our job, to be the outlet for those brands who don't know or don't care. Like at least you're putting it to the front and saying like, this is what you could do better.
And the reason why we're all here is to make money. So as the brand is looking to make money with your content, I start to just point out like, this population is purchasing this much, their purchasing power is this much, and you're neglecting that. Why? Like, it's not even for me. I'm working with a Brazilian influencer, and a watch company was just like, yeah, we're just not gonna work with her. And I was just like, you are literally giving up an opportunity here to work with this market segment that visits the US by, I just start throwing out numbers because I think that numbers really show
Numbers don't lie.
Like what the impact of like their decision really makes for the company. And then the next thing I know, they're doing something for Hispanic Heritage Month, and I was just like, ain't that enough? But it's just taking that time to like put the numbers together and actually tell them that there's a huge segment that they may be missing out on an opportunity to speak to, and there's people around in abundance to talk with them through that whole journey. So I think that putting the numbers together and then also giving them like that small, not 200 because that you gotta charge, small, quick list of people that top 10 that they can just like pick from and just start building that relationship. And even just say like, hey, I try and do this like and bring out like different people to coffees with brands, and they may not be working with me directly, but I know that it's still important for that brand to see a white girl at the table, a Spanish girl, an Asian girl, and a black girl all together, and understand that we're all very similar at the end of the day. He gave me a look like, girl. I understand, but like we're very similar. Like,
I mean, as far as like what we like,
but like
we're similar and we bring different things to the table.
There seems to be an aspect where there's like a roadblock where it's just like, I've had situations where I would try and talk to like someone who's not of color at a brand, and they're just giving me like this stare, like I have a penis on my forehead or something, and I'm just like, we're just having a normal conversation about life in general, and I can have a conversation with anybody. But like the fact that you see that I'm black kind of puts this barrier over the conversation, and it's really like jarring at the end of the day to step into that situation. But now I have to put my professional hat on and switch gears and just really be dynamic with the way the conversation is going, or just try and include someone else that can add a bit of like context to it. Sometimes like, for me, I have a background where like I got my start in this industry primarily working with like rich kids of Instagram, like Instagram baddies from like the West Coast, like, and most of them are like white and stuff. So I saw what opportunities they were getting, what brands are paying them, and I was like, like they struck gold. And I'll be damned if I don't mention like how much like girls of color can be getting paid the same, and you don't need to be like siloed into just like the hair care industry.
Right.
Which
Oh,
is,
that
yeah,
was a big thing.
that was
I
the
would
big-
say
I got
even
that
just jumping on that, I do a lot. I've been really trying to focus more on travel, and travel is a space where they just really historically did not want to pay you for anything, and it's starting to shift where they are paying you for travel, whether it's like an airline or it's a hotel brand. But one of the first things I had to do was include in my pitch deck stats. I had to talk about our traveling, our purchasing power, the fact that this is, a group that they should want, and it's a group that spends a lot of money on travel and all these things. Like, why do people still not understand the purchasing power of Black people and Black women?
You know what? I
especially?
think they understand.
don't care.
I don't think they care.
Yeah.
I think, like, I had this conversation with my manager. I'm like, I'm starting to realize it's a more of a, we know you guys buy stuff.
Yeah.
We just don't really know if we want to include you in these campaigns. So I think
Because unfortunately,
Well,
we
that's
still
the-
buy from these brands.
Well, that's the
Right.
other end of advocacy now, talking about who do you work with and who do you not work with, and how do you, when you realize that a brand is trying to have a genuine relationship, then
Right.
it's not just because it suits them at the moment to have a token.
right.
There's a lot of brands that are now actually making efforts that do look really genuine. They're like, we're really trying to do something different than what we've done in the past. And so, that's also, I guess, something you have to like research when you're deciding who to work with and, what to charge. But yeah.
I think it's also not just us. I've gotten emails where someone that was working at a brand or even an agency who was of color or Black woman or even Latino woman recently referred me to someone. Like that white person, their counterpart that they're working with, didn't know where to go. They're like, they don't know who to ask, what's going on. And someone who is not working on that specific account was like, well, I know this girl, you should reach out to her. And I've gotten emails where such and such told me about you, and I knew you from that person. I feel like it's not just us. I think through organic conversations, I've always mentioned, I tend to mention my friends, I don't know, because that's who it's like right off the bat, you know what I mean? And it's like, this doesn't work for me, but I think that it works for that person, and it's a genuine, natural conversation. But in terms with brands, I've had that multiple times where I've met someone from a brand, and they weren't working on this campaign, but they referred me to someone that was working on that campaign because they didn't know where to go.
Yeah,
And that's why you have to be in the room, right? Because that's how,
exactly.
that's how everybody else was getting the job before we stepped in.
Exactly.
It's like if you
Word
don't
of
know
mouth.
anybody, if you don't know anybody, you're not part of the conversation.
I also think it's beyond the room because, like for instance, I know I always hit you up I'm marketing in my day job, so I'm in that space where mine is not in the space, to be honest. But I have friends that are also in the space like this, so they're in the rooms where they're trying to do campaigns. And I even have a friend that's in a very, very big brand, and because she knows I'm friends with Sin, sometimes she'll send me a message in the presentation, and Sin is in the presentation. But Sin is like, my God, you need to come back again. So you need to have to blow stats up, or when they be pitching things, because she knows I'm in this space and we talk about all these things, she makes sure she tries to plug Black people in there, because it's very easy to have a list and not have us in there, even though they don't intend to do that. But it's like, I feel like they're not clued up, or it doesn't occur to them sometimes. But when you have somebody, when you make a point of advocating for ourselves beyond our space, in our day lives, all our friends have jobs or in this space, when they know more, hopefully do more. So I think it helps when you keep on highlighting the fact that we're doing all these bomb things, we're creative, we're doing some amazing things, and it trickles on, and people start advocating for you when you're not in the room, or you don't even know it's happening. So I think, when you think about it, we're doing amazing things. So
I think what we can do, like as individuals, is just collaborate more. That's why I love what Tyler and y'all do. Y'all always collaborating, right? Because you just think about when you do that Black Girl Magic photo, think about how much it's shared, how much it's engaged with, and it's like that visibility. Sometimes that's all it takes. Right, and then I'll never forget like a brand who didn't have any diversity. After I worked with them, they was like, oh my God, I saw that picture when we did the Savage thing. She was like, oh my God, who are those girls? I want to work with those girls. Then they started working with those girls. So that's all it takes. Like we probably all have an instance where we were, either worked with somebody on a photo, collaborated with somebody or something, and you got an opportunity through that. So we
yeah.
got to do more of that.
Yeah.
And just recently, I did a video on spring fashion trends, and you know, a lot of times when you're looking for like picture examples for things, like if you like go to Pinterest or whatever, we ain't on there. And then sometimes when I mean, Pinterest is making their changes. They're improving, but it's still.
Didn't they just have a great campaign? Pinterest actually. Really? Yeah, I saw on someone. They did what? Yeah. They had a campaign for something. Pinterest.
Yeah, they started.
They did, right?
6 years ago.
Oh, really?
Now, like with makeup stuff, they now do it by like skin tone and hairstyles, like thing. So that's great. But I did a video on spring fashion trends, and a lot of the trends, I'm like, wait, I know I saw this one do that outfit and this one. So all I simply did was use my friends' pictures as an example in the video. You want to think that I had a whole sermon in my video because the comments from people saying, I loved how you used your black fashion blogger friends. Like, like if you look at the comment, the video doesn't even have that many views, but almost every other comment says, you know, I'm so glad that you use your black fashion blogger friends because now I have more people to follow. And that alone just goes to show, and that's why I will always share, because although there's a lot of tokenism and people feel like, you know, validated in being the token, we like to see more people. And that's what I love about this industry is that, you know, like, there's so many people that you can follow. And you're not taking away from someone by adding, you know, more people to follow on your list. So, stuff like that. Something as super simple as just putting people's pictures in my video.
I don't know why there's this fear like somebody's gonna come take your spot. It's not.
If you're not secure within yourself, right? You're already in an insecure industry, which is social media. Everything be on the internet, you know. And even as a lot of people, what I'm thankful for, like when I got into this space, I was already a grown-ass woman, so I already knew who she was. Yeah, like people think like age is the thing, but being an adult actually experiencing real life shit, like makes you a better person on the internet. I remember thinking black girls on it. So I was just like, I already know I had a goal, an objective, like yeah, I'm doing this for this brand, but it's also going to be for me and also to raise visibility when it comes to mood boards. So if anybody else wanted to create a mood board for a laundromat shoot, like the black people will be on there. So what you do is like, I'm sure most of you guys probably have blogs, is just put those images on the blogs and pin it right back to these specific things. So then when it comes up, it's in a relatable content that we can repin and things like that. So we're already using Pinterest to create our mood boards. So might as well.
I kind of feel like white people don't use us in their imagery. Like if they're doing a trend list, they don't like find pictures of black people. So it paid like I understand why some black people might use, because I've used pictures of white people because it's like that.
I use it to make money though. So there's like something weird happened. I didn't know how to take it, but I was like on set for something, and this photographer that was there, I haven't worked for her for like a really long time, which was something like I did probably one of my first jobs like 2 years ago. And she's like, yeah, oh my God, it's so great to see you. I used your image for a job I was trying to get. And I was just like, oh yeah. I was like, huh? She's like, yeah, they needed a girl, like basically to see that she can shoot a girl with my tone. So basically she's making money from me, and I don't know she's making money.
And this is exactly why I feel like we really need to include ourselves more and more because of stuff like that.
I was like, I don't know how to feel about this, but I was like, it was great seeing you. What do you want me to say?
So we need to use more of our own images in our
pinning. I feel like we need to be doing more collective shoots, collective work, but also pinning our stuff is so important. We are honestly in the future. Like I think what I do my job is like we are making Black history, and it's important that we do our part.
Because erasure is something that always happens. Like you guys know I'm really big into streetwear, and streetwear was actually created by Black women, in these industries. But now you look at the face of streetwear, and it's an Asian man. You know, so it's just like erasure can happen at any point in the culture, especially here in New York. Like it's something I like. Brooklyn, New York is like my home. It's something I really value. So it's really important for me to capture these images and culture and history and saving them, because New York 10 years ago didn't look like it does today as far as diversity, as far as gentrification and things like that. And 10 years from now, it's not going to look any different. It's going to look completely different. So the same in the influencer space, same with Pinterest, same with all this stuff that we're talking about right now. We have to really preserve our culture. And in order to do that, we